Hey rock buddies, it's Papa. I hope you guys are doing well and had a great Christmas. We have been talking about igneous rocks and how they form, and in the last video about igneous rocks, we talked about how the raw igneous rocks that are produced at rifting centers, and those are mostly mafic rocks, rocks high in iron, magnesium, and calcium like diabase, gabbro, and basalt. Now we're going to talk in this video about rocks that are produced, igneous rocks that are produced at subduction zones. So I hope this video will be helpful to you. If it is, and you learn something, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, because that's how I know that I'm putting out a good message to you guys. Okay, so here we go. In the video on rifting, we learned that rifting creates and enlarges oceans, and we found out that at a mid-ocean ridge, ocean crust is being created on each side of the rift. The ocean crust pushes out on each side and causes pressure against the adjacent ocean crust, and something has to give. This picture shows what has to give. The red arrow points to the mid-ocean rifting ridge. Ocean crust is being pushed out on each side of the mid-ocean ridge, and to the left you see that the ocean crust is broken and one piece is subducted underneath another piece of ocean crust, creating a volcanic island arc. On the right side we see the ocean crust has subducted underneath a continent, creating huge mountains on the edge of the continent. When subduction occurs, whether it's ocean crust subducting under another piece of ocean crust, giving rise to a volcanic island chain, or ocean crust subducting under a continent, giving rise to a huge mountain range, a whole bunch of new igneous rocks are produced. So let's have a look at those rocks. This picture shows ocean crust subducting underneath another piece of ocean crust. The blue arrow on the right shows a piece of ocean crust that is subducting, and the blue arrow on the left shows the molten magma that used to be the other piece of ocean crust. The subducting piece of ocean crust has been pushed down into the mantle too, so you've got all this ocean crust that has been melted, and a lot of water, ocean water, goes down with the subducting ocean crust. This hot water that goes down facilitates the creation of 3 different kinds of magma that rise up to form a volcanic island. An island chain, actually, a chain of islands that have these big stratovolcanoes on them that are subject to very violent and destructive eruptions. The islands of Japan are an excellent present-day example of a volcanic island chain. And Mount Fuji, which is part of this volcanic island chain, is a stratovolcano that's not active right now but could erupt at any time. As mentioned before, the ocean water that goes down into the trench with the subducting ocean crust causes a process that's called fractional melting that gives rise to the 3 different kinds of magma. As all this mafic ocean crust dives down into the subduction trench, it all gets hotter, and the first thing that happens is the temperature reaches the melting point of minerals like quartz and feldspar. The quartz and feldspar that have melted also combine with biotite and some muscovite to form the igneous rock granite. And because granite is lighter in density and lighter in weight than the ocean crust, it rises up into the mouth of the Strato volcano. As the temperature rises, it reaches the melting point of biotite and sodium-rich feldspar. They combine together to form the igneous rock diorite, which is still lighter in density and lighter in weight than the heavy ocean crust. So it rises up underneath the granite. And in this picture, it's a speckly rock, which in fact it really is. As the temperature continues to rise, it reaches the melting point of minerals like calcium-rich feldspar and pyroxene, which you know are the components of gabbro Pluton. And because the gabbro Pluton is heavy, it stays down toward the bottom of the stratovolcano. As more and more ocean crust subducts, more and more of these three kinds of igneous rocks are produced, and the pressure builds in this chain of stratovolcanoes, this island arc. And here again, something has to give. Now, the granite rock that is up at the top of the stratovolcano, plugging it, does not want to flow like the basalt lava would flow. It's very thick because of the silicon bonds are very strong. And as the pressure builds and builds and builds, it resists that pressure until finally it can no longer resist it, and it blows. And that's what causes the massive explosions in these stratovolcanoes. Here's the picture of the very violent Mount St. Helens volcanic explosion that happened about 1980. All that material that's blowing out of there began as granite-like magma that was blown out of the volcano when it could no longer resist the pressure. Very damaging and life-threatening eruption. And here are the restored ruins of the ancient Italian city of Pompeii, which was completely destroyed by Mount Vesuvius, which is in the background in this picture, when it erupted as a very violent stratovolcano, covering the entire city with ash. Subduction is going on all the time, even today, creating these massive stratovolcanoes that are part of volcanic island arcs, and also creating huge mountain ranges like the Cascade Range that runs from Northern California up into Canada, where there are active stratovolcanoes that erupt sometimes without warning. There's the Ring of Fire, which is a huge area of subduction in the Pacific Ocean, the Northern Pacific and Western Pacific, where volcanic stratovolcanoes are erupting all the time. We recently, here in 2022, had the eruption of the stratovolcano on the island of Tonga in the Pacific. That was due to subduction. And less recently, a few months ago, we had an eruption of a volcano in the Caribbean, which devastated the island of nation of Haiti. These are all subduction-related volcanic island eruptions. Now, we know this granite that is plugging the top of the stratovolcano is a felsic rock. That means it contains lots of silicon, aluminum, and potassium. It is also an intrusive rock. That means it's inside the stratovolcano or underground. It is an igneous rock because it comes from the mantle ultimately. Now, when the volcano blows, all that granite is blasted out, and it turns into volcanic dust and huge hunks of rock and small hunks of rock of all sizes. And now it becomes a rock called tuff. Like granite, the tuff is made of mostly quartz and potassium feldspar, with some sodium feldspar in there too. It piles up in huge layers, hundreds, even thousands of feet thick, across the land when a stratovolcano erupts. After all of this tuff is blown out of the volcano, the remaining granite magma that's left very often erupts as Daysite Lava. It's Felsic like granite, which means high in quartz and feldspar. It also doesn't want to flow, but it pops out and bubbles out like cheap toothpaste thick, and does not flow very far Daysite lava is made of very fine grains of quartz and feldspar with larger hunks of quartz and feldspar embedded in this mass. Here is some cooled Daysite lava that was erupted from a Strato volcano in the western United States. Once the granite plug of a stratovolcano is blown out, then the intermediate magma called diorite can erupt out of the top and also out of the sides of the volcano. And once this diorite erupts and comes out on the surface, it is now called andesite. The diorite magma and its extrusive equivalent andesite are called intermediate igneous rocks because they contain minerals like biotite and sodium feldspar that are intermediate in melting point, weight, and color between the light-colored granite rocks, which are felsic, and the dark-colored mafic rocks like basalt lava. Here's the picture of diorite magma, an intermediate igneous rock that you've already seen. Now when the diorite erupts onto the surface, it becomes andesite lava and looks really different. Here's some andesite lava from Wyoming. It's pink, but andesite lava comes in various shades of gray, also red and brown. But the main thing about andesite is it's a ground mess of very fine particles with larger, lighter colored mineral particles embedded in it. Here is an andesite lava flow from out west. Back to our subduction generated stratovolcano. At the very bottom of the volcano is the mafic, dark mafic, gabbro Pluton, the same material that we found abundant at a rifting center, and that gabbro magma will erupt as basalt lava, and it usually comes out of the base of the stratovolcano. When the basalt lava comes out, it's very thin and it flows very easily and flows for quite a distance, creating these very large, dark basalt lava flows. So in review, at subduction zones, we get volcanic island chains and stratovolcanoes. At the top of the stratovolcanoes is Felsic, granite / tuff / daysite. In the middle of the stratovolcano, you get diorite / andesite. And at the bottom, you get gabbro / basalt. Now, these are generalizations, and I've really simplified the whole thing, but this is the general idea. And if you can get this into your mind and keep it, you will have some really good knowledge about igneous rocks. Okay, rock buddies, that's the scoop on the igneous rocks that are produced at subduction zones. I hope this was helpful to you, and if so, please subscribe to the channel. And this is Papa signing off and wishing you fantastic rock hunting adventures.